Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm here to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming. I promised you guys I would talk about it. So here I am, and I'm going to start off with just saying as a non-spoilery part of this video that the film is actually very solid. I would recommend it. The whole cast has an amazing dynamic. It comes through really clearly on screen. The script is so cohesive. Very few plot holes, if any, and the film for me was a 9 out of 10. So go and see it if you haven't yet seen it by any chance. It is an amazing film. It is an amazing film. Now, let's get into the spoiler part. We're just going to have an informal discussion about this film because there's just so much to go into. I'm going to start off with the main star, Tom Holland. He was so lovable in this film, and he had a great performance as Peter Parker and as Spider-Man. He brought so much heart to this film and such a vulnerability that he has won so many people's hearts, and he is Spider-Man. And then we have Ned, his best friend. They just personify nerds together with the whole Star Wars, Lego Star Wars references that were being made every now and then. And if you haven't watched Lego Star Wars, go and watch it. It is so funny. And the fact that they just kept quoting these lines out of that just made me laugh. And finally, when Ned finds out that his best friend is Spider-Man, that was just an amazing scene. And I've got to say something. After the second main trailer, I did not watch any more teasers, TV spots. So even the time when Peter Parker comes in through the roof, and Ned finds out that he is Spider-Man, for me it had a shock factor. It's like I had forgotten seeing the part where he drops the Lego thing that he was building on the floor, and for me it was a shock. I was laughing. It was amazing. So yeah, I always say the TV spots, the trailers, if you're the kind of person who just wants to watch everything, okay, to each their own, but I always feel like some things should be preserved for the actual movie-going experience. That's just my opinion. So I love that part. And then how Ned keeps asking him questions in class, like, does he spit venom? Does he lay eggs? That was so cute. And how they were seeking rather acceptance as the nerds. They wanted to be accepted into like the main fold. So I love how Ned told every other person when they were in the gym that Peter Parker knows Spider-Man, and he was egging him on in the party to come and reveal himself. And I was thinking about this, is so funny. It just takes you back to high school days and how, or just school days in general, how young people tend to want to fit in, and the whole main thing is just fitting in. And this film just does a great job in letting you know that you can be who you are, unique, all your quirks, and it's all right. So I loved that. And I love how every time Peter Parker wants to do something selfish for himself, he remembers every time. This is interwoven so wonderfully throughout the film that with great power comes great responsibility. So he can't use his talents for selfish gain. So I love that about this. And then his love interest, Liz, I love the character so much. She played it with just enough believability, I guess. I love the fact that even she was someone who was a brilliant person, and they were all part of the academic decathlon. That was just an interesting take on how the whole film was revolving around it. You'd think that it would be cheerleaders as his crush, but it was amazing to see that she was someone who was, who was intellectually sound and just, I guess, his kind of girl. So that was very, very interesting. As well as the bully of this film, Flash. I always thought he would be a jock kind of guy. It was interesting to me, as I talk about now, how the whole film was focused on academia, that even Flash, the bully, was also on the decathlon team. So I thought he would be a bully in the typical sense of bully. And that is Rain you're hearing out there, so don't mind it. So back to that, I loved how all these characters were people who were interested in their studies. And then we have the character that Zendaya was playing, Michelle, who many people were speculating was MJ, and then that name drop at the end that was just mind-blowing to so many people. I think she will be a version of MJ. So what happens? Will she be like Michelle Mary Jane, or will she be Michelle, some last name that starts with J? So that is going to be very interesting to explore. And I like how she was just a background character and giving us a chance to to see if you wanted to be more interested in what her story was about. I think she was just so weird in her own interesting kind of way, and I'm looking forward to see what they're gonna do with that character. Anyways, back to Peter Parker. I just loved that personification so much. The awkwardness, just how he was desiring to be a part of the whole Avengers, and having that rush of being a part of them when Tony Stark first approached him in Civil War, and then having to go back to his normal life. He was so angsty to be Spider-Man, and I love how he brought that to screen. Tom Holland was just so amazing in this role, and I love how as the film opens up, that sequence where he's trying to be a superhero and he's making so many mistakes, and I love how it just shows him on that journey of growth, and not only just trying to be patient with himself, but also be patient with his powers. So that theme, great power comes great responsibility. No one said it, but it was so wonderfully portrayed in this film. And I love how Ned helped him hack the suit. And it also showed how that was the wrong way to go. And him having all those capabilities and not knowing how to handle them was just part of that theme once again. And then Donald Glover, that scene he had with him when he put on there was a mode where he goes into like intimidation mode, I guess. That's what I'm gonna call it. So he kept I love how Donald Glover kept saying that he was a girl, and he was refuting it and saying no. And I just love how in the end he just decides to just turn off that mode, and it was just so funny. And it's so interesting that we might see Miles Morales in this, because Donald Glover said he had a nephew in that town and he didn't want him getting hurt. And if you do some more research into it, that will be Miles Morales, who is his nephew. So that was very interesting. Now, to the villain of this film. Michael Keaton was so menacing. I think he is right up there with, Tom Hiddleston's character and all the other major Marvel villains, because he had such an undercurrent of something that is so dark, but you could always understand where he was coming from. And that scene where Peter Parker is going to pick up Liz and Adrian opens the door, my first thought was he had found out who Peter was and now he had held him captive. And to see him go back to the kitchen and continue cooking like nothing had gone on, and seeing Peter Parker in that moment of just trying to figure out what he was gonna do. And he was being asked to smile for the pictures, and he couldn't even get himself to smile. That was so funny. Everyone who I was with in the cinema was just laughing out loud at that part, and it was so funny. So everyone was on edge trying to see what was gonna happen as he was being dropped off with Liz by Adrian. And finally, you see him putting the 2 and 2 together and figuring out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And I like how he sends Liz out of the car and says, I'm going to have a, man-to-man talk, in quotes. And he actually wanted to, just intimidate Peter Parker. So that part was so intense. I was holding my breath. And he had a gun in his hand as well. And I thought he was going to try and shoot him, but, I guess it wouldn't have worked out because he was right in front of the school. So I really thought he was going to try and shoot him or do something. So that was very interesting. But then I come to another part, which for me was a small nitpick. How did the guy who was calling himself Shocker get to the school so fast? I guess we missed the part where Adrian calls him up and tells him to check up on Peter. So that was just a very small nitpick. The whole film was amazing. And we see once again Peter, he chooses to bring Adrian in. And that fight between Spider-Man and Vulture, wow. He first starts off with trying to get Peter to understand that he is just a little guy who's fighting against the big guys, the guys who are misusing their powers, and that's why he has to do what he has to do. And then he drops the building on Peter Parker. Man, I cried on that scene, just seeing him trying to get out from under that and having to believe in himself. That was so touching. So many of these films have got me crying. Wonder Woman, Guardians of the Galaxy, they were just tugging on our heartstrings. And it is true, you have to care about these characters. Otherwise, it's just vacuous action, a lot of just explosions, and you don't really care why. So I just love them for taking time and enabling us to fall in love with these characters. So back to Peter Parker, I love how he's able to finally, lift the building up and confront him. And even in the fight, it's so amazing that he is trying to take care of Vulture. He's trying to make sure that he doesn't kill him. And that was so touching to me. And bringing to the fact that he was trying to save Tony Stark's things. For anyone who's trying to think that Tony Stark was going to take over the film, nope. He's not even in this film that much. I think at the most 5 minutes that are just spread out here and there, and he's doing that mentorship role. You can tell he really cares about Peter, and I love that. I love the fact that you could see he's trying to be like a father figure to him, and that was so sweet. And also talking about Happy, the big brother who just doesn't want you bugging him. For any of you who have older brothers or sisters, I think you can relate to that. Just that feeling that Happy was giving off towards Peter, especially in the first part of the film when he drops him off to the fight in Berlin, and he's telling him the walls are thin, stop recording. It just gave such a wonderful, a wonderful arc, even for Happy, seeing this kid as someone who is, just a new kid on the block. I have to take care of him. I have to chaperone him. And seeing him get to the point in the end of this film where he respects him. And then I love the fact that this film, by the way, guys, is just totally from Peter Parker's perspective. And as Tony Stark is trying to get him to come to the Avengers Tower, I love that drive-up scene. You felt like you were right there with him. I wanted Peter to say yes, to take the new suit, but surprise, surprise, he says no, and he says he needs to grow. And it's true, with great power comes great responsibility. So Marvel just is amazing how they do this. No one had to say it, but we all saw this. I love how they're gonna give a chance for us to have another Spider-Man sequel to this and build more upon his character, and as well as the team around him, Ned, MJ character, all of them, and just see their journeys of growth. Aunt May as well, that last scene as she just sees Peter in his suit. My heart just leapt at that scene. I did not expect that. So I love this film, guys. There's just so much to talk about. And for me, as I said, it's a 9 out of 10. It has tremendous rewatchability, and I will definitely be watching this film again. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this review, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here. I will leave links to other wonderful videos at the end of this. And thank you for watching this with me once again, and I'll catch you in my next one. God bless.